I believe that Charles Metz probably built the speedsters because he was so involved in racing.
As part of Historic Waltham Days, Metz automobile owners from as far away as Nevada converged on the Waltham Museum to share their passion for a line of brass-era cars produced right here in the city.
What we have here is one of the largest exhibits of Metz cars that's been put together in 100 years, from a 1903 Orient buckboard to a 1916 Metz touring car. One we're proud of is the Metz delivery wagon, which you can see right behind us. That was put out in 1916 as the demand by the public was for not just touring cars and roadsters, but cars for work, such as delivery cars and parcel cars.
WCAC shot these images of the same delivery wagon back in the winter when Arena was having it restored in the basement of one of his properties along Charles Street. In the same neighborhood, Arena has built garages to store 6 other cars designed by Waltham automotive whiz Charles Herman Metz, including the model that won the celebrated Glidden Tour in 1913. The garages fit the cars, but just barely. Nowadays, Arena has a little more space to work with after selling a 1915 Metz to Bill Metz of Charlton, New York.
Just on a lark, I did a search for Metz cars and started finding them more and more, and then I found out about the museum. After looking for a while on the internet and whatnot, I decided I really had to buy one.
The latter-day Metz, no relation to Charles Herman, is one of a growing group of Metz collectors who came to the museum back in March. Many of them returned over the weekend to trade stories about cars that were affordable when they were produced and remain affordable as antique collector's items. Philip Jamison traveled from Westchester, Pennsylvania. To resurrect his long-dormant Metz, he came to gather as much information as possible from the other collectors.
Well, I'm hoping that for my 1913 Metz I can find some measurements for parts that are missing. My car sat unattended for about 40 years since the 60s or so, and pieces sort of flew off. I hope maybe if they have this event next year, my car will be parked in front of this building.
There's a pinion gear and a rack gear, and it doesn't get any more elemental than that.
Back here are the 2 original that shows when the car was built by Orient.
As the city where Metz cars were designed and manufactured until the company collapsed after the First World War, Waltham is the logical place for the collectors to meet, and it would seem only fitting, one day, to make room in the bays occupied by the wires department adjacent to the museum for Al Arena's collection of Metzes.
You know, someday see it in the museum if they're given the space, the extra space, to put all these, fine cars in one spot.
That's what our main purpose is, to bring attention to it, for we'll be able to get the city Chamber of Commerce to let us start parking our cars inside for the museum.
For Waltham Newswatch, this is Chris Wangler.